Baby, I love spending time with you and sleeping next to you.
Tonight, the many loving telephone messages between Oscar Pistorius and Reeva Steenkamp.
Lady Leonard assesses this is a state's case.
And the final prosecution witnesses are called as the state rests its case. Good evening from Pretoria, where in the fourth week of the murder trial of Oscar Pistorius, the state prosecutor has ended his submissions. It's now likely that Pistorius himself will take the witness stand at the end of this week. First today, though, there was more detailed evidence from the police phone specialist who was cross-examined by Pistorius' defence team. Barry Rue said of the many hundreds of phone text conversations, only a tiny fraction were angry or tense between the couple. Yesterday it was revealed that Reeva Steenkamp sent Pistorius one message saying that she was scared of him sometimes. Ian Woods reports.
Captain Francois Moller has been analysing phone data for the police for 12 years, and he demonstrated to the court how much detail can be extracted from telecoms records. He produced a timeline showing calls and internet usage, as well as Oscar and Reeva's location in the days leading up to her death.
The 4949 number of the accused, Mr. Oscar Pistorius, phoned the deceased 5353 number.
And he highlighted the flurry of calls from Oscar Pistorius' phone in the minutes after he shot his girlfriend. The first to the manager of the estate where he lived, the second a call for medical assistance.
The accused made a phone call to the 082-911 number, which is an ambulance service, and that call lasted for 66 seconds.
There were also calls to his brother and some friends, and an explanation why the data appears to show Oscar and Reeva were using the internet before and after her death.
The user or the owner of that specific device didn't end that connection.
I think it's correct. If an application is not closed, it will carry on running. It will continue.
That's correct, my lady.
Oscar Pistorius' barrister chose to highlight calls between his client and the estate security guard.
According to analysis, who made the first call? Security to Mr. Pistorius or Mr. Pistorius to security?
The first call was made by Mr. Pistorius.
And that was answered?
That was answered. It lasted for 9 seconds.
Yes. And then there was a return call from?
That's correct. There was a return call from the security that Mr. Pistorius received, and that lasted for 12 seconds.
That's significant because 3 weeks ago, the security guard, Peter Baba, testified that he called Oscar Pistorius first because gunshots had been heard, and he got this response from the Blade Runner.
Everything is fine.
Now Barry Rue had to challenge Captain Muller's evidence on Monday, which focused on messages showing tensions between the couple, as well as concerns from Reeva about how his jealous behaviour scared her.
You said that you wanted to determine relevant communications. What was your approach in determining relevance?
My lady, if I can answer it in this way, if one reads through this conversations and 1,700 and something entries that there was, one can immediately identify certain messages that stood out. And by standing out, I would mean that it's not the ordinary or normal conversations. It's something else that's happening here.
I can ask you many questions. Let's get straight to the point. You found 4 relevant to arguing between them.
That's correct.
That's what you were looking at.
That's correct.
It's not that they're standing out. You were looking at messages showing some argument between the two.
That's correct.
Yes. And out of that, more than 1,700 you found 4.
That's correct. Conversations, not because some of them were more than only one message. But yes conversations.
Yes.
For an hour, Mr. Rue produced a series of very different exchanges, messages of love and affection, including a photo of Reeva blowing a kiss as a thank you for a gift from Oscar.
You like it, with a question mark.
And then the answer following?
The outgoing message from the deceased is, I love it.
And it goes on so warm, thank you, and it ends up 3 kisses, the 3 crosses.
3 crosses, that's correct, my lady.
And he pointed out how some of those loving messages came soon after the ones in which they were arguing.
Again, the text is 3 process, which will be
we know it's 3
kisses. That's correct, my lady.
And what does she do in the next message in the time?
She replies at 18:44, also with 5 kisses.
So there was a disagreement and unhappiness, but if you look at the emails, it was resolved very quickly.
That's correct, my lady.
Yeah.
And to further demonstrate the strength of their relationship, the defence asked the court for permission to show this video obtained exclusively by Sky News, showing the couple just over a week before Reeva was killed.
What I want to do is that I happened to see on Sky a clip where on Reeva and Mr. Pistorius on the 4th of February, which is very close to the unfortunate date, was in a sort of a shop, looks like a garage shop where you can buy whatever, cold drinks and sweets and so on. You might have seen this clip before.
I don't understand it, my lady. Before we look at anything, there should be a basis why the court will accept this and even look at it. I've no idea what we're looking at. We can look at YouTube videos, my lady, in this court, shooting watermelons and doing lots of things. I just need to know. If we do this, perhaps we look at other YouTube videos.
My lady, I believe that the relevance and admissibility will become clear, and if it's necessary and there's some outstanding aspect, the person responsible for screening and taking it will be called. So I will just ask the court to allow it provisionally. The only purpose is to show if that would accord with what is seen in the messages, nothing more. And I think it is relevant to this case, because one thing is relevant, and that's the relationship.
Who took this?
It was my lady. This was screened on on Sky News,
Yes.
and it was a CCTV camera where the deceased and the accused were on the 4th of February.
The judge consented and the silent CCTV footage was replayed in the courtroom. And more affectionate texts were read out, including a question from Reeva about whether she should wear this dress at a public event. He replied, "I hope you enjoy tonight, my angel. I'm thinking of you. I love that, and you look amazing in it." Those messages continued in the days leading up to the abrupt and bloody end of their relationship.
The outgoing message,
Meaning that's from Reeva
From-
to Mr. Pistorius.
that is correct, my lady. Baby, I love spending time with you and sleeping next to you. I just don't ever want to cramp your style or not give you space if you need it. Promise me you will always let me know when you need some Oscar time.
And there's a response to that message on the next page.
That's correct. It's an incoming that the deceased received.
That's from Mr. Pistorius.
That's correct. I love having you sleep next to me too, Baba. You never cramp my style.
One of the final exchanges was about the last evening they were to spend together.
The message is an outgoing message that the deceased sent, and it reads, "Baby, can I cook for you on Thursday?"
In response, the chief prosecutor raised how there was no reply apparently from Oscar to a message in which Reeva was unhappy.
That's now 7 days before the accused shot her, and she said, "I can't be attacked by outsiders for dating you and be attacked by you, the one person I deserve protection from." Did he respond to this? The next message is from the deceased.
That's correct, my lady. The next message is on the 8th.
At 10
And that's
o'clock.
again an outgoing message.
At 10 o'clock the next morning.
That's correct, my
So
lady.
between that and 10 o'clock when she wrote him again, there was no response by the accused.
My lady, there's no response on the initial download that I did. It might be that it's deleted if there was one, but it's not on this report.
But under more questioning from Mr. Roux, Captain Muller acknowledged that there had been phone calls between the pair, as well as text messages.
Captain, have you looked at the telephone data of Mr. Pistorius?
Telephone data.
Yeah.
That's correct, my
You
lady.
would see that there was telephonic conversations between them.
On the 7th of February.
Yes, between that email and the morning Aussie.
I'll have to go into the...
It's there. Will you accept? I can show it to you, but will you accept a number of calls?
We can check it, but yes,
The final witness before lunch was another police officer, Adrian Maritz. He'd been asked to plot instances of crime in the neighbourhood. Only 11 incidents were reported in a 3-year period, and 2 of those were related to the shooting of Reeva Steenkamp herself.
You were asked to ascertain if the accused before court ever reported the matter or was ever a victim of crime.
Dis korrek, Eerder.
That is correct, my lady.
Could you establish that he was?
Meneer Pistorius ooit 'n klaar was of 'n beskuldigde was dan.
My lady, I tried to ascertain on the system by means of an ID number to ascertain as to whether Mr. Pistorius did indeed report an offence as a complainant or as an accused person, but I couldn't find anything of that sort.
The prosecution was trying to show there was no need for Oscar Pistorius to be concerned about his security.
Coming up, a return to court for the cricket bat-wielding colonel from the South African police. And we look ahead to Oscar Pistorius taking the stand himself as the prosecution case winds up. Welcome back to Pretoria, where the many journalists from around the world covering this case were somewhat taken by surprise yet again by the abrupt ending of the prosecution case. Now, the state prosecutor, Herinel, had said that he would be calling his last few witnesses early this week. In the end, it turned out there were far fewer than many of us had calculated. So the focus now shifts very much to the defence, and under South African law it's the usual practice for the accused to be called as the first witness, and that would mean Oscar Pistorius himself taking the stand and giving evidence before the end of this week. But before wrapping up, there was a return to court for Colonel Vermeulen, who previously had been asked to wield Pistorius' now famous cricket bat on the runner's toilet door in a courtroom reconstruction of the events of the night of that shooting. As it turned out, it wasn't only the toilet door that received a bit of a battering that day. Barry Rue, for the defence, resumed hostilities with the police forensic expert today. Colonel Vermeulen was asked again about a mark that he didn't fully investigate on the door.
On your knees, but lift your feet up. Why did you come back to look at the door?
Maybe the defence can point out exactly which mark they're referring to, then I will be able to tell them whether I did look at the mark.
You see that?
I see that, my lady.
Now let's look at the other marks that you examined. For cricket, we know there were 2, and how many marks did you examine?
I did have a look at all the marks on the door, and I focused on the ones that I could relate the cricket bat with.
To see if they would fit or match with cricket bat damage. Do you have those photos?
My lady, I did not take specific pictures trying to fit the cricket bat to the other marks. No, I do not have them. But the defence has got all the photographs taken by Mr. van Staden.
So you did not take the cricket bat and try to match it with that mark?
No, my lady, I did not.
Would you look at the following photos, please? And then you can explain it to us. Which mark is that the cricket bat's matched to?
The cricket bat is held next to the door, next to the top mark there, my lady.
Yeah. And image 3041, is that a close-up?
My lady, this is just the bat held against the door there.
The same place at the top mark?
Close to that place, yes, my lady.
Not close to, at the top mark?
Well, at or close,
Yes.
Well, my lady, it's held next to the mark, it's not cutting into the mark.
So you did use the cricket bat to look at that mark?
Well, if I look at the photographs, it is true the cricket bat was held next to that mark, my lady.
Could you not remember it when we started with your evidence?
My lady, I honestly forgot about it. I forgot about those specific photographs, and still I maintain that I could not match the cricket bat with those marks.
Yes. Well, I'll put to you that ballistic experts will be called in the field to say that it's an absolute match, and that you have, and the only reason you say it because you have no choice but to say that it did not match.
My lady, there was no reason for me to deny. If it was so, then I would have reported it, my lady.
There is a reason, Colonel, and the reason is when you stand on the stumps on that height, that you would not be able to imitate that mark?
It would not be impossible if the person was on his stumps. If he stood just a little bit closer to hit that little bit higher than the two previous marks.
These photos did not find their way into the photo album. It's photo album 7. Why not?
My lady, if these photos are not in the photo album that was, or the range of photos that was provided to me by Mr. Van Staden, Warrant Officer Van Staden, then I don't know where they come from.
I can tell you where it comes from. Mr. Van Staden gave evidence. And he says that you looked at the photos and you then decided, and he then agreed with you what must go into the album. So you were the author. You were the person deciding not to put it in.
When I did the investigation on the door, there was no issue, no request to me to determine the height of the person causing the damage to the door.
I don't want to labour the point that there will be evidence that the top mark matches with the cricket bat.
Well, no doubt happy to step down from the stand, Colonel Vermeulen's evidence was finally over. And instead of another key witness, there was a simple announcement.
May it please the court, my lady learned assessors, this is a state's case.
We asked the court to consider to grant us indulgence till Friday morning. Witnesses not used by the state, they then become available to the defence to consult with them. We could not do so before today.
Yes, I think it's only fair that the defence should be given an opportunity to consult with these witnesses. So I shall grant the request.
I'm indebted to the court, madam.
Court will adjourn.
So at the end of day 15, the prosecution has finally rested its case for the moment. Next, the defence, but that could be a couple of days away. Another extraordinary day in court that has featured not only the cell phones that the couple had and the messages between them that could prove all important in trying to establish a motive, but also yet more evidence about that famous door. Alex, just run us through what were the highlights in court, what were the main points?
Well, we have learnt an awful lot from the state IT specialist, that they can not only decipher all your messages, including WhatsApp, they can monitor your internet activity and whether you logged on to certain websites and when you logged off, but also they can work out where you are when you're actually accessing your phone. So he painted a very detailed picture of what Reeva and Oscar Pistorius were doing in the lead up to that night at Oscar's home. And the impression that the state were wanting to give was that, and they highlighted 4 very difficult to listen to messages where she talked about being scared, about being permanently criticised from him, how he criticised her accent. That was what we had yesterday. It was absolutely excruciating sitting in court, listening to it. It really felt like you were sitting in their bedroom, listening to the very intimate, detailed conversations between them. Today it was the defence's case to try and right some of that. And as his uncle, Arnold Pistorius, turned round and told reporters, I've worked out how many of those messages the state zoned in on, and they are 0.7%. There were more than 1,700 messages between the two. They highlighted 4 of them, the state. Today, the defence wanted to draw everyone's attention, the judges in particular, to the very loving relationship. There was, it was amazing listening to Barry Rue having to say, there were 11 kisses then, weren't there? There were 5 messages with 11 kisses and another smiley face, and they were talking to each other using pet names like Baba, Baby, Angel.
Dr. Dutour, you specialise as a criminologist in abusive relationships. What are we looking for here? What caught your attention? What do you hear between the lines, if you like, when defence and prosecution are talking about a couple and how they get on and what their relationship is like?
You know, a person in an abusive relationship, the abuser himself, he has what we refer to as a dual personality. In other words, he has this outward personality where he's a good person, everybody likes him, and he's sociable and, loving and everything. And then he also has an inward personality, which is the bad one, where he can be very manipulative, he can be cruel. So an abusive relationship does not have to be aggressive or does not have to be violent. It can also be very subtle. And I think this is what happened here, because he criticized her, he humiliated her in in the public, you know, in front of their friends.
Here in South Africa, I mean, there is a concentration on abusive relationships or abuse towards women.
The research we've done says that 1 in every 3 women will become a victim of an abusive relationship within her lifetime.
The gender issue and gender-related issues and offences is high on the priority list currently of our legislator, first of all, and obviously in the eye of the public. So correctly pointed out, we are zooming in on those currently, and our courts are literally full of it. And we are trying to expedite those court cases in order to try and alleviate the problem we have.
Can I just say, Jeremy, that Barry Roux did make the point that after all these rows, he drew attention to messages where they had almost immediately made up and were referring to each other with affectionate terms all the time. That was one of his central points today.
A couple of days break, and then it's quite possible we could see Oscar Pistorius. What are you hearing from the defence?
Well, of course, this is what everyone is waiting for. There's no question, I think, that he will be called, because he's already indicated he wants to talk and he wants to give his own evidence. And certainly, having spoken to Barry Roux on the way out, he was trying to be enigmatic, because he hasn't liked the prosecution just pulling people out willy-nilly and him not being given advance notice. So he wants to leave a bit of an element of surprise, but I think everyone is really focusing and banking on him being first up as the first witness. I think we'll be very surprised if he's not. A couple of the reporters spoke to Oscar Pistorius on the way out, and they asked him how he felt about it. He was very nervous, but he said he didn't say he was nervous, but he appeared nervous. The whole of the family is giving the impression that they are absolutely resolutely behind him, and that he's going to do pretty well on that witness stand.
Alex Pixie, well, thank you very much indeed for running through day 15, the day that the prosecution in the Oscar Pistorius murder trial rested its case. There's a couple of days break now as the defence prepare to lay out their case, their defence of Oscar Pistorius, and it now seems highly likely that the first person on the stand will be Oscar Pistorius himself. His chance to face the judge, face the court, and tell his own story.